I'm definitely dreading this video or filming this video, but I know that I need to do it. I need to film it for a variety of reasons. I want to document my experience for posterity, maybe for me, maybe for my children in the future, family members that don't know the whole story, friends, my closest friends know the whole story because they kind of lived it with me. They kind of, I was in very close contact with my friends during a lot of it, very close friends during a lot of the experience. So, okay, first, my name is Gina, and my business is Skank Cocaine. That's my alter ego. Probably not going to be that much longer because I am definitely not that person. I am not Skank Cocaine anymore. That's pretty obvious. I'm going to tell my story of my health journey these last couple weeks, months, and I'm going to start with the kind of beginning of some weird stuff. My health journey over my whole life was when I turned 30, I started having a lot of reproductive problems in that, heavy bleeding and lots of fibroids and endometriosis. And that kind of plagued me my whole, early 30s to mid 30s. And I had a lot of myomectomies, which are fibroid surgeries. My final surgery, I think I was 37, and I had 7 fibroids removed at that time. And after that, I got pregnant with Ben, and then I got pregnant with Marcella 4 years later at 43. And I was really very I was very healthy after that. I mean, I had pretty risk-free pregnancies. They were naturally, I had them naturally. I did have cesarean sections with both of them because of my myomectomy surgeries. So I was a runner and vegetable enthusiast, didn't drink sodas, didn't smoke. I did still drink at that time, so I did party still on weekends. You go out to dinner, whatever. That's not, the point is that I would say that I was a pretty healthy person mentally and physically, did have some anxiety. I have had health anxiety and catastrophic thinking for much of my life. 2 of my best friends died in their early 30s of cancer, Tracy and Ellen. And that kind of kick-started the health anxiety out, and that continued for a long, long time. So fast forward to I'm 50 and I'm having a colonoscopy. And I have the colonoscopy, and it goes well, except that they tell me that I do have diverticulosis. And if it ever becomes acute, it turns into diverticulitis, which is that there are these sort of sacs or sores that seeds and things in the intestines get in it, and then they become infected and they cause inflammation and infection, and it's horribly painful. And I didn't have that. I had diverticulosis. So they were seeing the beginnings, I guess, of that. But other than that, I had no symptoms. I felt great. I was really, honestly, 50 was, I never felt better in my life. I never felt healthier. I thought I looked my best. I was very muscular and strong, and I felt really good, and psychologically, physically felt great. So I didn't do anything specifically for the diverticulitis. I just pretty much ignored it because I eat well. I eat pretty well. I mean, I try to eat mainly fruits and vegetables, lots of water, lean protein. I mean, that's kind of, I knew what I needed to be doing, and I pretty much did it. Starting at, I would say, a year after the pandemic or so, I started noticing I was losing some weight. And I also was having diarrhea like every day. And this went on for a couple years. I went to a gastroenterologist. They gave me ultrasounds and all of that. They never saw anything. And then after a period of time, everything sort of sorted itself out. And menopause happened, and it was no big deal. It was like my period just slowly went away, and then that was it. And I was like, wow, I can't believe that was so easy. I did have hot flashes, and I've had them off and on, for the last 8 years. So since I turned 50, I'm 58 now, and I've had hot flashes continually since I went through menopause. That has not changed. So I started noticing I was losing weight, and it was kind of, I would say, unexplained. Because I have health anxiety, I'm very hyper aware of my body. So I'm always looking at my skin. I'm always looking at the way my body feels and looks, and I have very low pain threshold. I am very sensitive to sensations in my body all the time, like hypersensitive. So I did notice that things were changing, as in I noticed that I was losing some weight, thinking it was aging because, we're aging, and I wasn't doing any muscle, I wasn't doing weights, but I was running. So I was doing force against gravity and keeping the biggest muscles in my body, I thought, strong. But I kind of chalked it up to normal aging, and I just didn't let my mind go to a negative place. I've been trying to also work on my health anxiety to try to be healthier and not assume that anything that goes, any sensation that's uncomfortable, that it's going to lead to something catastrophic. So I had been sort of pushing uncomfortable sensations and chalking it up to aging or just, getting older, aches and pains, that kind of thing. And I'm sorry about the way I look right now. I mean, I could have done my hair. My gray has not been covered, but honestly, I just have to get this video out. Because at this point, I don't even care what I look like anymore. I know that's hard to believe, but I just don't. So, the beginning of this year, we had some issues, like Marcella had her appendix out, Ben had pneumonia, so we were going to the hospital, everything. Well, I started in May, I started feeling really sick, as in bad headaches, body aches and pains. So I just retired to my bed. Like, I could not get out of bed. I was laying in bed for a week, which was, I'm not sure I've done that in a really long time. Like maybe stomach flu or food poisoning or something like that. Flu. But I was very, very sick. It started out with gigantic lymph node swollen. Like, I had a huge lymph node in my groin, my armpits, my neck, and I went to the doctor, and the doctor was like, you're fighting an infection, you'll be fine. Didn't give me anything, didn't give me any medication. I think I had blood work done. Nothing really showed up, but that was like 2 or 3 weeks of being really, really sick with headaches, and I was like fighting some kind of infection. And it was not until I started getting these really large red, like not sores, but like they weren't raised, but they were red circles all over my body. And I immediately went back to the doctor and I said, I have Lyme disease, don't I? Because I walk with my dog a lot, and we walk through woods, we walk through all kinds of stuff. My dog has ticks on him. I got bitten by a tick, obviously. And they were like, yes, we'll test you again. I confirmed with the blood test that I indeed did have Lyme disease. They put me on doxycycline for 3 weeks, and losing more weight, with the trauma of Lyme disease. And I had a lot of people reach out to me like, are you going to join a support group for the Lyme disease? And, really bad things can happen after Lyme disease. And I was like, no, I'm going to walk away from this, healthy, wealthy, and wise. I'm going to get through this. And seemingly I did. I resumed to exercise again. I, went to Nantucket with my family and had a really great vacation. I had energy and everything was good. Though I did still keep losing weight, and I noticed that I was losing muscle. And then, so now May, June, July, so now it's August. So I had Lyme disease really for the whole month of May. I was very, very sick, and made it through the other side. But then in August, and I can't even remember what day it was. Maybe it was the 10th or the 15th or something. I went to bed. And I woke up around 2 o'clock in the morning, and I had to go to the bathroom, number 2. And it was a normal bowel movement, totally normal. And my stomach was really not feeling good. I had like abdominal cramping. Then I went back to sleep. I noticed I had a pain in the back of my head. Like my neck felt like, I was like, and my health anxiety, which I had fixed when I became a Christian, that fixed it. I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm going to be here as long as I'm supposed to be here, and then I'll be taken, that kind of thing, God's will, whatever. So that really definitely lessened my anxiety about my health. But when I had this pain in my back of my head, my neck, and I'm now, I've got some abdominal cramping, I'm thinking, do I have meningitis? So that like the health anxiety came back. I'm laying there, and so somewhere around 3 o'clock in the morning, I had to do that again. I had to get up. I had a normal bowel movement again, which again I thought was really weird. Then I went back to sleep, but I was very uncomfortable at this point. I was tossing and I was turning, and I couldn't find like a good position to be comfortable. And then the vomiting started. So, and it took me really by surprise. I was like, what? Do I have stomach flu? Do I have food poisoning? But I felt like the vomiting felt different. It started out as just like clear liquid, and then it turned into straight up bile. I was vomiting up large pools of bitter bile, like straight from my gallbladder into my stomach. I'm like, oh, I have a blockage. I have a stone. I have something that's blocking, and the bile is coming out. And once I started vomiting, I couldn't stop vomiting. So I got a bag. I ran down the stairs, and I told everybody in the house that I needed to go to the hospital. So Dave, grabbed his keys, and he got me in the car, and we went to the hospital, the little local hospital here in Blacksburg, Virginia. And there, I was vomiting the whole time. Vomiting in the car, vomiting walking to the reception area, sitting, vomiting, and at this point I'm just getting delirious. And they rushed me in. They're great there. They are really great there. It's a small little hospital, but it's, really clean and great, and they get you in right away, and, they have everything you need there, or so I thought. So they get my vomiting under control. They get the pain under control. They give me fentanyl, morphine. I don't even know what else they gave me in my IV. But here we go. Like, we're on the road. They already kind of have an idea. They think it's gallstones. So they take me in, and I have a CT scan of my entire abdomen. And when I come out, and so I'm comfortable at this point. They're keeping my pain managed. I'm very comfortable. It's about 9:30 in the morning at this point. And I'd gotten there around 7 in the morning. By 9:30, they had scans, and they came in to tell me what they found. And what they found was that I indeed had a large gallstone in my gallbladder that was blocking, the little duct in between my liver and my gallbladder. It was blocking it. And it was a fairly large one. It turns out it was very large, like diameter of a quarter, so to speak. And they said, but there was other stuff going on. We also saw that you had pancolitis, which means that your entire intestines were inflamed with colitis and infected. But then they told me something that just shocked the hell out of me. But I was almost in shock. I didn't even know how to react. I didn't even know what to think. They said, we also saw a blood clot in your ovary. And I was like, what does that even mean? And they said, we've gotten rid of the birthing center here in this hospital because around the country, a lot of birthing centers and certain hospitals are closing and just deferring people to larger, bigger city hospitals to have babies because they can't find doctors or the insurance. I don't even know what it all is. I don't know the whole idiosyncrasies of the medical community, but my hospital had gotten rid of its birthing center. So it did not have an OBGYN on call to come in and to see me and to look at that CT scan and, decide whether it was something that needed to be dealt with right then. But everybody in the hospital that was on my case was really concerned and freaking out. So what happens next is they said, we have to transfer you to Roanoke. You can't stay here. This hospital doesn't have what you need. We have to get you to Roanoke. And I was like, this is turning out. The doctor said, and the doctor, I swear, looked 19 years old. She said, I would send you home with meds, but that blood clot, I got to get you somewhere else. I got to get you to a bigger hospital. We don't know what that is or why that's there. It's so rare. We see those kinds of things after someone's had a baby, for instance, but we don't see that normally any other reason, especially someone of your age or whatever. So I was concerned. Everybody was concerned. But they said, we're going to transport you by ambulance to Lewis Gale in Salem, Virginia. And I said, can my husband just take me? And they said, no, under no circumstances can you be sort of discharged and then readmitted there. So I think those ambulances are sort of third-party people because I did not get in that ambulance until 6:30 that night. So I laid in the hospital bed in the ER from 7 in the morning until 6:30 at night, in which case they came to get me, and I had my first ever ambulance ride to Salem. So they wheel me in, they put me in a room in the ER, and then, which is Saturday night in an ER in a bigger city. I mean, not a huge city, a small city, but bigger than where I live. And And this is where this begins to be a really hard conversation, because I think I have post-traumatic stress disorder from this experience. So me telling you this story is sort of making me relive it again, and I'm getting like really anxious. So I took an Ativan just for that reason, that I am very anxious telling this story about what then subsequently happened. So, I'm now at this point, I'm an hour away from my home. Dave is with me in the emergency room, but he has the first day of school tomorrow. He's program chair, and he has the first day of school tomorrow. Ben has his, first day of college the next day. Marcella had school. We have a dog. We have 2 cats. We have a bird. I just told him, go home. Go home. You still have an hour drive. At this point, it's 10 o'clock at night. 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. Nobody has seen me yet, just the nurse giving me fentanyl or whatever. So Dave agrees to go home and take care of things at home, because, I am the caretaker. So the caretaker is not at home. So I needed somebody to take care of everything that I've been taking care of. I'm sure you understand. If you're the mommy, you know perfectly well what I'm talking about. And so the OBGYN came in. He said he had called the Blacksburg hospital and told them that he was not concerned, but they still transferred me there anyway. And he met with me, and he again said if I was really concerned, I had had 2 transvaginal ultrasounds at this point, and he said that if your ovary, that blood clot could have been there for years, going to nowhere, or your ovary would be really large, and those vaginal ultrasounds never saw my ovary. They couldn't find it. They saw it on the CT scan, but they couldn't see it with the wand. So he was like, I'm really not that concerned, though I am going to overtreat you. I'm going to start you on blood thinners. You're going to have shots in your abdomen, and then we're going to do 3 months of Eliquis, and you're going to be on blood thinners just to make sure, that your body breaks it down, or that there's, but that's where we were at 11 o'clock on that Saturday night. And maybe I had another doctor come in the ER at the same time. He might have been a gastro guy. He was like, you have colitis, and so your intestines are inflamed. We're going to put you on antibiotics, and we're going to, monitor that gallbladder, and we're going to do some tests on that gallbladder and all of that stuff. So by midnight, they admitted me into a room. And this is really hard. It was a disgusting room. It was a disgusting room. Thankfully, it was a room by myself. I didn't have anyone in the room with me. It was a 1-person room, which I was grateful for, because there were other rooms that had 2, 3, 4 beds in them. And the woman across the hallway from me had some sort of dementia or something and was sick, but she was screaming the entire 8 days that I was in the hospital. She screamed, help me, somebody help me, 24 hours a day, never stopping. And that just was the most unnerving thing. But there was a chapel next to my room also. And so I would occasionally get up. I'm hooked to machines. I'm hooked to antibiotics. And I would walk through the chapel, and I would sit, and I would cry, and I would, beg God to comfort me and help me through this terrible ordeal. And because I was really scared. I was really, really scared. And they weren't giving me any anti-anxiety medication yet, because I hadn't snapped yet. That was coming. So I'm alone. And when you first admitted with sort of an acute problem, so I had pancolitis, a blood clot, a gallstone. And so I was getting medication for all those things. So they were giving me things intravenously. I had a saline bag, but then they were also giving me like 12 and 13 pills at a time to swallow. And they were always like every hour to 2 hours, they were drawing blood. They were doing blood pressure. They were taking my temperature. And that was sort of every hour, every 2 hours, every 24 hours. So I would fall asleep. It's dark in the room. The lights would be flipped on. The blood would be drawn. I'd be woken up. I'd be asked questions. And I was just so disoriented. And I was alone. Woman is screaming across the hall. I was being poked and prodded, and, I'm wearing this gown that doesn't cover me. I don't have underwear on. I'm naked under this, and I'm really uncomfortable. I did have a blanket that I brought from home that saved my life. I probably would be dead right now because it provided sort of weight and comfort. But also there started to be like this smell on me, a smell that I can't even describe to you, but it fills me with horror whenever I smell it. And it was almost like there was bile coming out of my pores. So I would try to get up and take a shower every day. The shower was always cold and it was a trickle. The towel rack that was on the wall in the shower had been ripped off the wall. It was just thrown in the shower. And so I would try to take a shower, and I felt so weak and so sick. And I hadn't eaten anything now for over 24 hours. I had the saline bag, but I hadn't eaten anything. And I was like scrubbing my skin in the shower with a washcloth, and it was yellow. The bile was literally coming out of my skin. And my level of anxious feelings were rising. So my phone was blowing up. I was trying to distract myself from what was going on because I wasn't tired during the day. I was only tired at night, and they were keeping me up all night. And then I tried to sleep, during the day, but I couldn't sleep because it was daytime. I was just on a certain schedule. And no coffee, of course, because I'm not supposed to have anything to eat or drink, just in case I had to be rushed into surgery. So I've got super low blood sugar. I'm starving to death. I'm sleep deprived. I feel terrible. I'm by myself, and there's a woman screaming across the hall, and my phone is blowing up nonstop. My mother's crying. My friends are like, I'm getting on a plane. I'm like, no. I'm shitting myself, which if you don't have underwear on and you shit yourself, everything has to be, okay. I'm naked. I'm demoralized. I'm terrified. I don't know what's happening. And this continues for days until like day 3. I'm like, I have to eat something or I'm going to die, because I'm taking like 12, 13 pills at a time. So they bring me like yellow, or orange Jello. They bring me Boost, which in hindsight I should have drank the Boost, but I read it and it was just sugar, corn syrup and dyes and things like that. It just seemed like so gross to me. Like all of it seemed gross and unhealthy, and I didn't want it. In hindsight, or advice to you, if you're in my situation, drink the Boost, because it had protein in it, it had vitamins, it had, yes, it had terrible other things in it, but at this point, I had nothing in my body. I was completely dehydrated. My veins, like I normally have these big, beautiful runner's veins, I had no veins. They were gone. They were like little. Okay, so I'm, praying, begging God, Jesus, to help me. And then, I'm walking to the chapel. I'm just trying to feel his presence, not feel so alone, crying constantly, but still kind of holding it together. And then they came to get me for something called like a Hyde test or something. It was a gallbladder test. And I read about it before I went on my phone. And they're supposed to give you morphine, a little morphine for it, because it's very uncomfortable. They fill your gallbladder up with liquid through your IV somehow, and then they watch it drain to see whether your gallbladder is diseased. Not just stones, but actually diseased. I didn't want to do this test because I already knew what was coming. I knew that a gallstone that large was not going to pass and that it was going to cause me constant pain. But when I had first arrived in the hospital, I had said, I want to do anything but get my gallbladder out. I do not want to lose my gallbladder. I don't want to lose anything. I haven't lost a tooth. I haven't lost anything, and I don't want to lose anything. So that's kind of why I think I was getting more tests, And so they wheeled me in for that test, and right away I noticed that the guy that was doing the test was this young guy. He had eaten something for lunch that was like garlicky, and so the smell coming out of his mouth made me really nauseous. But then when I said, are you going to give me morphine for this? He was like, nah, we don't, nah, we don't do that here. And so my anxiety just shot through the roof. And then he said it was like a 2.5 hour procedure, that I'm just laying on this hard plastic bed inside this machine, and they're running this, and so I'm starting to lose it. And then I lay down, as I'm laying there, he realizes my IV isn't working anymore. So he tries to start another one. So he just starts pushing on my vein, on my forearm, like tapping it and pushing it to try to get something. And he does this for like 10 minutes. And I had a nervous breakdown. I said, could you please stop doing that? And he said, okay, what I'm going to do, he said, you're so dehydrated. I'm going to go get the nurse, and we're going to use an ultrasound machine, and we're going to put an IV here so that you don't, you'll no longer have any pain getting your IVs put in. It's a bigger port. It's great. It doesn't kink, it's great. And I was really happy to get that, but before I got it, I thought this was another really uncomfortable, needle situation. So that was it. That was the end. I had a psychotic break. I started crying hysterically. I could not stop crying, no matter what they said to me. I could not stop crying. I said, I'm so hungry. I haven't eaten in 3 days. I'm like, why can't I have like a glucose bag or something? Like, I'm starving to death. I haven't had any sleep. I mean, it's torture to be woken up every hour on the hour. It's torture. I've been tortured in the name of keeping me alive, which, I'm grateful. Even though the doctors kept telling me I wasn't in a life-threatening situation, I was, my numbers looked good, my blood numbers, my liver, my white blood cells, everything looked good, except for, all of these things that we knew were happening. But I just had a complete mental breakdown, and I could not stop crying. They wheeled me out of that test. I did not get that test. They wheeled me back to the room where they brought me some beef broth in a plastic bowl, like one of those thick guacamole, thick plastic, looks like stone bowls or whatever. Some more Boost. I asked for a banana, so I was able to eat a banana. And again, they gave me some kind of Boost that I didn't drink, which again was a huge mistake. But I was literally starving to death. And so I just ate what I could eat. You know, like they brought me crackers, they brought me a turkey sandwich. I ate as much as I could eat, and I couldn't stop crying. My friends were calling. I couldn't stop crying hysterically. And they finally gave me some anti-anxiety medication. That helped, but not really, because at night, you know, I was seeing, like, I started to kind of, because I had had a psychotic break, I started to, the nighttime with the screaming and the torture of the woman across the hall, my physical, you know, naked under this horrible gown that smelled bad. I felt bad. I was disoriented. I was alone. Nobody was there with me. Dave could not be there with me. I started to see, like, the people that were coming in the dark at night to poke me and touch me, they started turning into demons, okay? Because, you know, there's that chapel there, and I'm praying to God, and then there's these people that, like, I couldn't even see their faces anymore, but they felt like they were evil. And I know consciously they were just helping me, but it didn't feel like it at the time, because I had had a complete psychotic break. And then once the crying stopped, because I had taken Ativan or whatever, then it was like, then I was just flat. And it was like, I couldn't even, like, my friends would call and I would say, I can't talk to you. And I would hang up on them. You know, they were all like freaking out. And of course my mother is, you know, crying and, you know, crying. So I have to feel like I have to comfort her, you know. So it was just, so now it's day 7. And the surgeon finally comes in, and I had one surgeon come in and say, we don't see those blood clots unless there's like a malignancy somewhere. But then another one would come in and they would say, no, there's no malignant. Well, we saw your entire abdomen. We don't see any masses or anything like that. Blood clots can be caused by colitis. I mean, could be caused by other things. You know, that's just not, that's not a thing. I mean, it could be, but it's not. But that was one more thing. Malignancy. That got thrown in there too. So I am wondering if I'm ever getting out at this point. Like, I've never been in the hospital that long. I don't know if I'm ever getting out. I'm feeling, you know, sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. You know, I went from running every day to eating well to feeling good to being a very, very sick person who's been laying in bed for 7 days, barely any food at all, pills and pills and pills and drugs and shots and blood thinners and all of this, and no sleep. So I am disintegrating, basically. Like, I'm done. I feel like I'm dying. Yeah, this lighting is, I have the ring light on. Probably not the best thing for me. Anyway, I've got to get the story out. So I'm scheduled for surgery the next morning. They come and get me. I'm getting my gallbladder out. They just made the executive decision that we're not getting that Hyde test done. She's not going to want to do it. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to take her gallbladder out. So they wheel me in. Again, I haven't had food. So they had stopped giving me food, you know, the day before. So again, I'm weak. I'm shaking. I'm now heading into surgery. And of course, I'm crying. You know, like, tears are just streaming down my face. Doesn't matter what anybody says to me. Tears are streaming down my face. And the anesthesiologist is asking about my history and when did I smoke and for how long, and just all sorts of stuff. How much, do you drink alcohol? Did you ever? How much did you drink? All of this stuff. And I'm like, well, the last time I had a drink was like, I don't know, a year ago. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a drinker. Anyway, somebody else comes in and he brings this big syringe of stuff and he's like, I'm going to give you your pre-meds for the surgery. And I knew what that meant, that I was going to feel pretty good. And I did feel really good for about 2 seconds. And I mean, like really good. My eyes closed and immediately opened. It was literally that quick. He put the stuff in. I feel good. Eyes closed, immediately opened. And I woke up screaming. Hysterically, because it didn't seem that they had given me any pain medication. So and the first question she said, please be quiet. Please stop yelling. And I couldn't stop yelling. I could not stop yelling. And she said, shh, shh. And there was one guy to my right, and this woman was working on the computer, and she's like, how long have you had endometriosis? And I said, well, I had it back in my 30s. I had some back in my 30s. She's like, well, you have it now. And I'm like, I have it now? I don't have any estrogen. What does she mean? Do I have scar tissue? What does she mean I have endometriosis right now? And then the guy, I'm holding his hands, and I'm very, very agitated and screaming. And after 4 tries, they finally get my pain down. Finally get it down. Took about 10 minutes, but they finally got it down. And I was wheeled back into my room, and Dave was waiting there. And I was uncomfortable. I was weak. I was at least not in pain at the moment. I smelled terribly, and I looked terrible, like death. And in walks 2 of my friends. In walks 2 friends that are not close friends. They're just acquaintances, a husband and wife, just walked right in my hospital room to check on me. And I'm naked under this gown. I'm just gotten out of surgery like 20 minutes ago. COVID is rampant right now. So the fact that, like if I was to get COVID from somebody in the hospital, it could have killed me, because obviously I had compromised immune system. I was very sick. And the fact that they just let these people in my room was very, these are some of my friends who are very judgmental of me. They're always judgmental of me. They don't like a lot of the life decisions I've made over the time, and they're always trying to get me to do different things or be a different person. I always feel like I have to really, really step it up in my appearance when we go out to dinner. So I usually spend like 6 hours getting ready before I go out with these people, and they just walked in the door. Nobody asked me. The nurses didn't ask me. They didn't ask me, can we come see you? They didn't ask. They just walked in and sat down, and just, I felt the judgment. I felt a lot of judgment. Because she is actually recovering from cancer. She's not recovering. She's in remission. So she's always been the sick person, and now I was the sick person. And she wasn't really thrilled about that, because she was being usurped, is that the word, out of her throne of sickness. And then there I was. And, the sentiment was kind. So I don't want to seem like a jerk that friends came to see me. But I would have liked to have been asked first. And if they had asked, I would have said that was not the right time. I wish that somebody in the hospital staff maybe would have looked out for me, and maybe would have said that, I'll ask if she wants to have visitors. But they didn't do that. I felt like I was vulnerable in terms of COVID. If one of them had COVID and didn't know it and they brought it to me, nobody wears masks anymore. I mean, maybe one of my nurses was wearing a mask, but no doctor, no nurse, no one. So I just thought, this isn't good. They left, and then Dave spent the night with me that night. He slept in a chair because there was no bed. He slept in a chair that didn't even recline all the way. And that's where, no blanket, no nothing. He slept in that chair all night. And the next day, I went home. And it's been 2 weeks since I've been home. And I'm on blood thinners. I'm done with all my antibiotics. But a couple days ago, and I've basically been, just laying in bed. I've been trying to walk every day. I walk for about 30 minutes. Like yesterday, I walked for 3 miles. Again, the OBGYN is pretty much holding fast to the fact that I have a blood clot, but he's still not concerned about it. We're going to recheck it after 3 months of taking these Eliquis pills. We're going to recheck it and see if if there's any change. And he asked me, he said, and you need to go find yourself a gastroenterologist to go forward with your colitis and stuff. And so, but I wasn't told what to eat or what, I've had to do basically my own research on I had my gallbladder removed. So now the liver makes the bile that breaks down the food, and the liver puts the bile in the gallbladder. And then the gallbladder is the fine tuning of the release of the bile. And when you remove that gallbladder, your liver just indiscriminately dumps bile into your intestines. And why that's bad is that you can have too much, it's too much. And so what I'm experiencing is pretty much just constant abdominal cramping after I eat and diarrhea full of bile. So I'm not absorbing my foods properly, and I'm still losing weight. Now, yes, I know I look really thin, but you have to remember that I was in the hospital for 8 days and ate very little food. There were days I didn't eat anything. I was basically on a fast, Didn't eat really anything at all. And I've also been very, careful about what I'm eating now, because if I eat anything greasy or oily, and everything has oil in it, if I eat raw foods like raw vegetables, lots of fiber, my colitis is aggravated. But then if I eat things that won't aggravate my colitis, I will aggravate my lack of gallbladder, and my liver will dump all of this bile. Don't let anybody tell you that we don't need these things. Yes, we could survive without our wisdom teeth, our appendix, and our gallbladder, and our reproductive organs. We can, or even one kidney. We can survive. We can survive, but they're there for a reason. So when people say we don't need it, that's bullshit. We need our wisdom teeth. Now, sometimes things can go wrong, but, I believe that our wisdom teeth were there so that, when we lose our other molars, back a long time ago, we would still have another set of teeth to come in that we could chew food with, so we could survive. So, and now we're realizing that the appendix has some direct relationship to our immune system. So why would it be there if it's not important? So you take your appendix out, your immune system is not as strong, okay? And then a gallbladder. Don't tell me that I'm not supposed to have my gallbladder, or I don't need my gallbladder. I am probably going to have abdominal cramping after I eat, and stomach pain and diarrhea possibly for the rest of my life. And I'm not really wild about that because it's malabsorption of my food. It's just a constant feeling of uncomfortableness. I can't, oh God, I've been tunning in the probiotics. I mean, I'm taking a lot of probiotics. These are some of the things I'm taking that have made a difference. I've started taking some beef liver pills. That's supposed to help your liver because I'm sure my liver is PO'd. I mean, all those medicines, the bile situation, like all of that, I'm sure that my liver is hurting. So I'm trying to figure out, like, am I getting better? It's been 2 weeks since I got out of the hospital, and I still am spending most of my day in bed. Not feeling that good, not being able to eat that much. I can't have caffeine, so there's no coffee. I can't have dairy, so there's no cheese, there's no cream, and I don't like artificial dairy things. They're loaded with oil. A lot of those creamers are just, and butters and things are just full of vegetable oils and soybean oils, things that we're not supposed to have. So I have to figure out my diet. Part of me also wonders how much Lyme disease affected all of these things. I've heard people saying they've had gallbladder surgery removal after having Lyme disease. If it's Lyme disease, is it over or is it still wreaking havoc on my whole body? The health anxiety is back. Am I heading south still? Or am my mental health and my physical health are in the toilet. And I'm depressed, absolutely depressed, for sure. Because I went from being a healthy person to being, a sick person. And everybody's out having their lives and, my business, I do have orders I have to ship out. So if you're waiting for an order from me, I'm going to try to get it done after I turn this off. I'm going to start assembling some things. Stephanie dyed some of the most beautiful yarn I have ever seen. I don't know if you're familiar with Fua Fua from Moondrake. We have that base. It's a cashmere Surrey base. And it is, like, if you're going to knit something that's in that kind of base, like a mohair Surrey, you want the cashmere one. And we dyed them, a bunch of colors. We did, I gotta show you this because it's really interesting. And I'm wearing this is my uniform right now. This is the uniform. But I mean, I had so many good things planned to sell, and then I got sick. I was really having fun. We did magic cakes out of Surrey. Magic cakes out of Surrey. I mean, can you imagine, like, what kind you could do? Hold it with cream and then knit it together and make a sweater. I have so much stuff that I haven't put on the website. I have stuff that's just sitting in the garage, dried, but I can't, my health is so bad right now that I just can't think about work right now. So basically, that's my medical story. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. This is normally a knitting podcast where I talk about my knitting, but I don't want to talk about my knitting right now because I do have some really cool stuff to show you. But right now, I wanted to get this part of my life recorded and away, and just to record it in case, like my aunt in California, and I told her what happened, but maybe she wants to go, or my cousins or whatever, want to go and actually listen to what happened to me. But I also have this feeling like I don't want to be touched. I don't want anyone to mess with me. The thought of going back into the hospital, if something gets worse, I don't know if I can do it. I can never step foot in that hospital in Salem again. That hospital was a horror show. The food was nutritionally absent, very poor quality, not nutritious at all. The condition of the room was road hard put up wet. There's just a lot of things that I feel like the medical community, the people are all pretty much doing what they can, but there's so many things in place, like the way the gowns are designed, the way that you're laying naked under this gown, and so you're so demoralized, and the way, I don't know, it's broken. The system is broken. I'll probably have to pay for that ambulance ride out of pocket. That's what people were telling me. So that's a couple $1,000. Out of my own pocket. So it was a lot of cost, a lot of emotional cost, physical cost, financial, everything. Stress on the family, my kids, worrying. My husband, who is, nearing 70, had so much on his plate. And then I had to navigate, how to deal with my friends. Becky came to stay with me after the hospital stay, and she stayed. I didn't really want her to come. I just wanted to be left alone. But she came, and we sat in bed and watched Tootsie and Moonstruck and Father Spitzer talking about, science and things like that. We watched a lot of, Tom Keller. We watched a lot of fun stuff. We watched a lot of priests, a lot of religious stuff. We watched near-death experiences. I showed her some of my favorites. And then we watched our favorite movies from the 80s when we were best friends, in middle school and high school. And that was fun. And she must have thought I was dying, because for that woman to come to Blacksburg, unless she absolutely has to, because I told her not to come. She came anyway. But it was a good distraction, and I appreciated it ultimately. But now I'm just sort of trying to get through the day, eating really nutritious foods, knitting things that give me pleasure, spending time with my family, talking to my friends on the phone, walking Buddy in the fresh air. And that is all I can really do right now. I'm not reading. I can't read for some reason. I don't know what that is, but I can still knit. And that I'm grateful for. I did not knit one stitch in the hospital though. I don't know. It was like the smell of the hospital, the smell of me, what was coming off my body and everything. I just could not, I couldn't knit. I didn't want to take my knitting and put it in that hospital bed somehow. I did a couple stories at the beginning on Instagram while I was high on fentanyl, but once you're in so much pain, like the high isn't even there anymore, it's just not there. So again, if you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to answer. I don't know if you noticed on Instagram, I cut off messaging because I was getting thousands of messages, and I always try to respond to everyone's messages on there. And just because if I don't get a response, I feel slighted, and so I know how that feels when you reach out and you say thank you. So I just want to thank everyone for leaving well wishes comments, just being really kind. If anyone wants to send me a emotional support chicken, I would love one, or a note, or I'll leave my mailing address underneath if you want to send me anything. I would love something to cheer me up, because it's just been a very dark period, and I'm still in the dark period. Just telling the story is really traumatizing and bringing back a lot of bad feelings, scary feelings, just a lot going on, a lot of really terrifying things happening. And So again, I will try to answer any of your questions. I thank you for listening to my story, and I hope that things get better for me, because I'm not ready to move on to the other side yet. I still have things I want to do. I really would love to regain my fitness level and strength, and at least have my 60s be, peaceful and comfortable and healthy. And I need to adopt all of those healthy lifestyle things. Even though I feel like I was doing it before, I'm going to have to really do it a lot more intensely. Like, I'm going to go gluten-free, try to restrict sugar, purple sweet potatoes. The problem is I have this, gallbladder colitis opposing issues. That's the problem. I learned I can't have hormone replacement, because I was hoping to get on that, to get a patch for testosterone and estrogen. I was hoping, because I thought that would resume some of my health, revigorate my interest in my career. I thought it would, but once they saw the endometriosis, the OBGYN was like, it's scar tissue right now. If we start, giving you estrogen again, you're going to start having endometriosis, the active lesions of endometriosis. If you're not familiar with what that is, it's uterine tissue that somehow gets outside the uterus and then responds to the estrogen and has a period, but it's in the inside of your body cavity, so it bleeds and scabs and bleeds and scabs and creates these things, and then when it heals, it has scar tissue. So that's what they saw when they were giving me the laparoscopic surgery to have my gallbladder removed. So I think that is the story. Again, if you would like to ask me any questions, if you would like to send me something like a get well card or anything you feel like that feels good to you, a granny square, I would put it together, a blanket, I would love that. I would absolutely love that. Because this community is really important to me. And that's why, another reason why I wanted to film is because I do have people that I feel really close to, and I feel like I am part of this large knitting community that I love very much. It's the people, there aren't many people in this community that I don't like, varying degrees of I'm pissed at this one or this one, that was a jerk, but they all come back, we're like families, sometimes we're mad at each other and sometimes we're not mad at each other, but we basically are all one crafty family, and we're all dealing with life stuff, and life is hard. So one thing I know I'm not going to do is I will never do elective surgery, any kind of plastic surgery or anything like that. I want to stay away from anesthesia, hospitals. I can't do it. So, let's see. So I'm on blood thinners for 3 months. They're going to give me a new CT scan to see what's going on with the blood clot, and I will let you know what I find out. I will be doing a separate knitting podcast because I do have lots of things that I want to show you, lots of new yarn I want to show you, lots of things, and things that you will really, and I also went through and finished a lot of sweaters that you haven't seen also that have been languishing. I finished like 4 sweaters that were languishing, so I'm going to get to it and I'm going to podcast about it. And maybe not talk about my health. Maybe I'll be feeling even better then. So, thanks for watching. And if you want to follow along with my journey, like and subscribe. I appreciate it. But you know what? If you don't, this filming it is connect with the people that care about me, and also for my children to watch, years in the future, to, you know, they might not have remembered they probably don't know the details, but if they watch this, they'll know, you know, about this experience and what I went through, and hope that I never go through this again. And I'm going to dye the gray when I get off here, and count my blessings and have lots of gratitude for the fact that I'm still here. I have a lot of gratitude for that. I just want to stay here for a little while longer. So that's it.